The city of Chicago had been blanketed in snow for hours, the streets transformed into a near-white wasteland. Streetlights cast a golden glow on the icy sidewalks, illuminating the occasional car struggling against the relentless storm. Inside the towering glass and steel building of Aurora Enterprises, the chaos of the blizzard outside contrasted sharply with the sterile calm of the lobby. Ethan Cole, the night security guard, sat in his small booth sipping lukewarm coffee, eyes scanning the monitors. The building was quiet, except for the howling wind outside and the occasional clatter of snow against the massive glass doors. He had worked nights for years, but there was always something different about tonight. Maybe it was the storm, or the unsettling feeling in his gut that something was off. He glanced at the elevator feed. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just the usual hum of machinery and the dim silhouettes of cleaning staff moving through the halls. Then, a figure appeared, tall, elegant, unmistakably hurried. Aurora Lee, the young CEO everyone admired for her intelligence and poise, was moving through the lobby, her designer coat flapping in the gusts of wind that somehow found their way inside. She looked panicked. Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out of the booth. "Ms. Lee, are you okay?" She turned sharply, eyes wide, her usual calm composure replaced by tension. "Ethan, someone's following me. I don't know who they are, but they're dangerous." He didn't have time to question her. He had learned long ago that when fear was real, hesitation could cost lives. "Come with me," he said, leading her toward the stairwell. The storm outside howled like a beast unleashed. The building's security cameras flickered as the wind and snow battered the structure. Ethan guided Aurora down the dimly lit stairwell, each step echoing in the silence of the night. "You're taking a big risk," Aurora whispered. "I'm the CEO, if anything happens." "No time for titles now," Ethan interrupted, his voice firm but calm. "We need to get somewhere safe." A sudden loud crash made them both flinch. Someone, or something, was trying to force the executive entrance. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, ready to defend her. As they reached the emergency exit, the blizzard outside hit them full force. Snow whipped around them like icy knives. Visibility was almost zero. They stumbled into the alley behind the building, the wind threatening to push them off balance. "Stay close," Ethan shouted, his hand firmly gripping hers. She was trembling, whether from the cold or fear, he couldn't tell. Hours seemed to pass in minutes as they navigated the storm. Ethan had worked this area for years, but he had never experienced anything like this. Every shadow could hide danger, every echo could signal a threat. Yet, amid the chaos, he noticed Aurora's steadying presence. Even in fear, she maintained a certain grace, a quiet determination. Finally, they reached a small maintenance shed at the rear of the property. Ethan forced the heavy metal door open and ushered her inside. The small space was cramped and cold, but at least it was shielded from the wind. Aurora sank onto a wooden bench, her face pale. "Thank you," she whispered, her usual composed tone gone, replaced by raw vulnerability. Ethan sat beside her, scanning the dark alley outside the small frosted window. "You'll be safe for now. I'll keep watch." Hours passed in tense silence. The storm raged on, a relentless symphony of wind and snow. Both of them were exhausted, shivering from the cold, the adrenaline finally giving way to fatigue. The small shed offered little comfort, only the warmth of human proximity. Eventually, Aurora leaned against the wall, her eyes heavy. I can't stay awake," she murmured. Ethan hesitated. He knew it was risky, but he couldn't let her collapse in exhaustion. "You can rest," he said softly. "I'll keep watch. Nothing will touch you." And so, under the dim light of a single hanging bulb, Aurora drifted off to sleep, leaning against the wall, while Ethan remained vigilant, his eyes scanning the shadows outside. He had no idea that the woman sleeping beside him was far more than a CEO. She was the ruler of the Dragon Realm, a secret kingdom hidden from the world, and tonight, her fate rested in his hands. The blizzard continued its furious assault on the city, but inside the tiny shed, a fragile bond began to form, a bond that neither of them fully understood, but one that would change both of their lives forever. Morning light filtered weakly through the frost-covered windows of the small maintenance shed. The blizzard had finally started to wane, leaving behind a thick blanket of snow across the city streets. Ethan had stayed awake all night, keeping a vigilant watch. His body ached, but every time he glanced at Aurora, still curled up and wrapped in a thin blanket, he felt a surge of protectiveness he hadn't expected. Aurora stirred, blinking slowly. "Where are we?" she asked, voice hoarse from sleep and cold. "You're safe," Ethan replied calmly, though his eyes never left the frosted windows. "Just a shed behind the building. The storm's almost over." Her gaze met his, and for a brief moment, the world outside the shed, the storm, the city, the dangers, vanished. She saw him differently now. Not just a night guard, but a man who had risked everything to save her. "Thank you," she whispered again, softer this time, almost like a secret meant only for him. Ethan nodded, brushing a stray strand of snow-damp hair from his eyes. "You don't have to thank me. I was doing my job, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried." Aurora's lips quirked into a faint smile. There was something reassuring in his straightforwardness, something grounding that contrasted with the high-stakes world she inhabited as a CEO, and as a hidden ruler of a mystical realm she had kept secret from everyone. As they prepared to leave the shed, Aurora pulled her coat tighter, shivering despite the warmth she normally carried effortlessly. "Ethan, I don't usually ask for help," she said, a touch of vulnerability in her tone. "But tonight, I trusted you." Ethan felt a pang of surprise. Trust from someone like her was rare. People often saw her as untouchable, impervious to danger or sentiment. But here she was, leaning on him in a way that felt real, human. Before he could respond, a sudden shadow flickered across the snow outside. Ethan stiffened. "Stay here," he whispered, moving toward the shed's door, flashlight in hand. Aurora followed instinctively, curiosity and concern warring in her eyes. Through the window, Ethan saw a figure approaching, a man tall, dressed sharply despite the snow, moving with precision and purpose. "Danger. I don't think we're completely safe yet," Ethan murmured. He opened the door cautiously, stepping into the snow. The wind hit them with icy ferocity, making each movement a challenge. The man's eyes glinted under the dim streetlights. "Aurora Lee," he called, voice smooth but laced with menace. "You shouldn't have left without me noticing." Ethan positioned himself between Aurora and the stranger. "Who are you?" he demanded, though inside he felt a surge of anger and instinctual protectiveness. The man smirked, unfazed. "Let's just say I have business interests." His gaze shifted to Ethan. "And you shouldn't meddle with matters beyond your reach." Ethan clenched his fists, but before he could react further, Aurora stepped forward. There was a calm authority in her stance that Ethan hadn't seen before. "This isn't your fight tonight," she said firmly. "Leave now, or you'll regret it." The stranger hesitated, sizing them up. Clearly, he hadn't expected her to confront him so boldly. He finally nodded and retreated into the night, melting into the snowy shadows. Ethan exhaled, tension draining slightly. You just stood up to him?" he asked, awe creeping into his voice. Aurora's expression softened. "I may be a CEO, Ethan, but there are things about me even you don't know. That man isn't the only danger out there. There's more to my world than this city." Ethan's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, the weight of centuries-old secrets pressing on her shoulders. "I'm not just a CEO," she admitted softly. I have responsibilities. In a place you wouldn't even imagine." He stared at her, trying to process the words. "You mean, like some kind of secret kingdom?" Aurora's lips curved in a faint, almost sad smile. "Something like that. But you've already seen a glimpse of the danger that comes with it. That's all I can show for now." The snow around them sparkled in the early sunlight, a serene contrast to the stormy revelation of her words. Ethan felt a strange mix of awe and fear. He had expected a high-profile CEO, maybe someone difficult to impress, but not this. Not a woman carrying the weight of an entire hidden realm on her shoulders. Yet, despite the magnitude of her secret, he found himself drawn closer, not by power, but by her humanity, the fragility behind her strength, and the trust she had placed in him. They walked back toward the building slowly, their steps crunching in the snow. Neither spoke much, but the silence was comfortable, almost intimate. It was a start, an unspoken bond forged in the crucible of the blizzard, the first thread of connection between the Night Guard and the heiress of the Dragon Realm. Ethan didn't know how this night would change everything. He didn't yet know the challenges, the enemies, or the unbelievable truths that would soon unfold. But he did know one thing: he would protect Aurora, no matter the cost. And for the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged, not just in a building or a city, but beside someone who had opened a door to a world far beyond his imagination. The blizzard had passed, but the city was still buried under thick blankets of snow, the streets reflecting the soft golden light of early morning. Ethan walked Aurora back into the sleek, high-rise building of Aurora Enterprises, each step crunching against the icy pavement. Even with the warmth of the building around them, the tension between them from the previous night lingered like a shadow. Aurora led him to a quiet office far from the bustling lobby. She gestured for him to sit, her expression serious. "Ethan, you need to understand something. About who I am. About what's really at stake." Ethan tilted his head, curiosity and caution warring in his chest. "I'm listening," he said carefully. "You saved my life, or at least, I feel like we saved each other last night. But whatever you're about to tell me, it has to make sense." Aurora took a deep breath. "I am not just the CEO of this company. My family has guarded a secret for generations, a world hidden from ordinary people. A realm that humans would call mythical. Dragons exist there, Ethan. And I am responsible for it." Ethan blinked. The words hung in the air, almost surreal. "Dragons? Like fire-breathing dragons?" She nodded, a flicker of weariness in her eyes. "Yes. And I am the ruling heir. My responsibilities extend beyond this city, beyond this world, in ways most people could never imagine. That's why last night, the danger you saw wasn't just corporate. It was political. A threat to my realm, to its people." Ethan felt the weight of her words, but a strange calm settled over him. Somehow, even in the face of something extraordinary, he believed her. She had shown courage, intelligence, and vulnerability all at once. "That's a lot," he murmured. "But why tell me?" "Because you've already proven yourself," Aurora said softly. "You protected me when I was vulnerable. You acted without hesitation. That's rare, Ethan. Most people would run. Most people would be too afraid." Her gaze softened. "And because I want you to understand the life I lead. If we are to work together, if we are to survive what's coming, you need to know the truth." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, processing everything. He had lived a simple life, protecting a building at night, seeing the city from behind security monitors. Nothing in his world prepared him for dragons, hidden realms, or the weight of an ancient lineage resting on one person's shoulders. Yet, he felt a strange pull, an undeniable connection. "So, you're asking me to trust you," he said finally, "even when half the world would think you're insane." Aurora smiled faintly, a mixture of sadness and hope. "Exactly. And in return, I'm asking you to stand by me. Because the storm isn't over. Not for this city. Not for either of us." Before Ethan could respond, the building's emergency alarm sounded, piercing through the quiet. Aurora stiffened. "They've found me. Marcus Kane has tracked us here." Ethan's blood ran cold. Marcus Kane, the name had come up in security briefings, whispered rumors of a ruthless businessman with connections everywhere. But now, standing beside Aurora, Ethan realized the danger was more immediate than he had imagined. "Don't worry," he said, determination hardening his tone. "Whatever comes, I won't let him harm you. Not while I can breathe." Aurora studied him, something unreadable in her eyes. "You don't know what you're getting into, Ethan. This is more than just a fight for survival. It's a war between worlds." He nodded, heart pounding. "Then I guess I have no choice but to be ready." As the alarms blared, Ethan felt the first real spark of something unfamiliar. Exhilaration, fear, and a growing sense of purpose. Protecting Aurora wasn't just about duty anymore. It was about being part of a story much larger than himself, about discovering courage he didn't know he had. Aurora turned toward him, the icy morning light catching her eyes like molten gold. "Ethan, whatever happens, remember this. In the Dragon Realm, trust is rarer than gold. And yet, I trust you." Ethan swallowed hard. The weight of her trust settled in his chest, and he realized something he hadn't allowed himself to feel before. He was ready to risk everything, for her. The world outside the skyscraper remained white and silent, but inside, two lives had collided in ways neither could have foreseen. And as the first hints of danger closed in, a bond formed that would be tested by fire, ice, and shadows lurking in both the human and dragon worlds. By nightfall, the city had calmed from the morning storm, but an electric tension filled the streets. Ethan and Aurora remained on high alert inside the sleek skyscraper, the corridors eerily quiet except for the soft hum of the building systems. Marcus Kane was out there somewhere, and every shadow seemed a threat. Ethan paced near the lobby, flashlight in hand. "He's not going to give up easily," he muttered, scanning the snow-covered streets visible through the glass walls. Aurora, sitting at a sleek desk, opened a hidden panel under the keyboard and accessed encrypted security footage. "He's persistent, yes," she said, her voice calm but laced with determination. "Marcus Kane doesn't play fair. He knows I have resources, but he underestimates my allies, and apparently, one of them is you." Ethan froze, meeting her gaze. "Me? I'm just a security guard." Aurora smiled faintly, but there was seriousness behind her eyes. "You acted with instinct and courage. That counts for more than you think. And tonight, courage will be everything." A sudden, loud crash echoed from the service elevator. Both spun around. Through the frosted glass, they saw a dark figure stepping out. Marcus Kane, sharp suit, confident smirk, a pistol holstered at his side. "Good evening, Aurora," Marcus said smoothly, his gaze cold and calculating. "I didn't expect to find you so cozy in your little hideaway." Aurora rose, her posture regal despite the tension. "Marcus, you've crossed the line. Leave, and this ends peacefully." He laughed, the sound echoing through the vast lobby. "Peaceful is boring. I prefer results." He glanced at Ethan. "And you? Who are you supposed to be?" Ethan tightened his grip on his flashlight, his voice steady. "I'm the one making sure she gets out of here alive. If that's a problem for you, then I suggest you leave." Marcus's smile widened. "How admirable! But you're out of your depth." Suddenly, Marcus's accomplice triggered the building's emergency doors, releasing a haze of smoke that filled the lobby. The room became a blur of shadows and muffled alarms. Ethan reacted instinctively, guiding Aurora behind the security desk, his body shielding hers. "You can't fight them all," Aurora whispered urgently. "You have to trust me." Before Ethan could question her, Aurora pressed a hidden button on the desk, and the floor beneath them subtly shifted, revealing a concealed tunnel leading into the bowels of the skyscraper. "Follow me." Quickly, they sprinted down the narrow passage, Marcus's footsteps echoing behind them. Ethan's heart pounded, adrenaline coursing through his veins. For the first time in his life, he felt like more than a night guard. He was a protector, standing between a woman and forces that sought to destroy her. The tunnel opened into a dimly lit chamber, lined with mysterious artifacts and faintly glowing symbols. Aurora touched one, and a wall of light shimmered into existence, a barrier that pushed back the smoke and the intruder's view. Marcus's voice came from above, frustrated and furious. "Aurora, you can't hide forever." Aurora's eyes met Ethan's, a mix of resolve and vulnerability. "I'm not hiding. I'm surviving. And tonight, survival is a team effort." Ethan nodded. "I'm with you. All the way." As they stood side by side, the glow of the barrier reflected in their eyes. Something unspoken passed between them, a bond forged in trust, courage, and the quiet realization that neither of them would face this alone. Outside, the city remained oblivious to the secret battle unfolding in its heart. But within the skyscraper, a storm of a different kind raged, a storm of ambition, danger, and the fragile beginnings of trust and, perhaps, something more. The night was far from over, and both Ethan and Aurora knew that this confrontation was only the beginning. Marcus Kane would not rest, and neither could they, not when so much was at stake. The dimly lit chamber beneath Aurora Enterprises had become their temporary sanctuary. The soft glow from the enchanted barrier painted their faces in a golden hue, highlighting the tension and exhaustion etched into their features. Outside, the city continued its indifferent hum, unaware of the high-stakes battle unfolding in the depths of one of its tallest buildings. Ethan leaned against the wall, still catching his breath from the mad dash through the hidden tunnel. Aurora stood nearby, studying a map of the building that projected from a small, holographic device. "Marcus Kane knows more than I anticipated," she said, her tone calm but urgent. "He's been tracking every move I've made for weeks. Tonight was only the beginning." Ethan shook his head, frustration creeping into his voice. "And yet somehow, you're still standing here, bossing me around like nothing happened." Aurora glanced at him, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "You think I'm bossing you around? No. I'm making sure you survive, Ethan. That's my job now. And perhaps, it's your lesson in humility." Ethan chuckled despite himself, tension easing for a brief moment. The way she carried herself, fearless, poised, commanding, was intoxicating. Not just beautiful, but utterly compelling. And there was a softness beneath that strength, a vulnerability she rarely showed. He couldn't help but be drawn closer, even as danger lurked around every corner. "I don't need lessons, Aurora," he said, voice low. I need to know what I'm protecting. Why you're worth risking everything for." Aurora's eyes softened. "You've already proven that, Ethan. You didn't hesitate last night. You didn't question my story when it made no sense. You acted. That's more than most could do." Their proximity sparked something neither could ignore. Ethan's heartbeat quickened as she stepped closer, her gaze steady and unflinching. "I trust you," she whispered, almost to herself, though her voice carried enough for him to hear. Ethan swallowed hard. "Aurora, A sudden alarm interrupted them, a silent notification from the building's security network. Marcus Kane's team was attempting to breach another access point, this one leading directly to the executive floors. The moment of intimacy shattered. Aurora's expression hardened. "We don't have time for this. We need to move now." Ethan nodded, forcing his racing heart to calm. "Lead the way." They navigated the labyrinthine corridors beneath the skyscraper, every step echoing in the empty spaces. The hidden passages were lined with artifacts and ancient symbols, faintly glowing with a magic Ethan couldn't comprehend. He had no idea what he was looking at, but he knew one thing: Aurora's world was bigger than he had ever imagined, and he was now a part of it. As they reached a reinforced chamber that served as a secondary safe haven, Aurora activated another barrier. The room shimmered with protective light, and for a moment, they allowed themselves a breath. Ethan glanced at her, feeling the pull he could no longer deny. "Aurora, back there, before the alarm. I wasn't scared of you." "I don't know, Aurora's gaze met his, warm and intense. "You don't have to say it, Ethan. I feel it too." For a heartbeat, the world outside ceased to exist. Two people, bound by danger and trust, found a fleeting moment of connection. Her hand brushed his as she reached for a device, and Ethan felt the electric charge of their contact. But the world wasn't done testing them. A loud crash echoed from the floors above, followed by Marcus Kane's chilling voice. "Aurora, I'll find you, and when I do, your little guard won't save you this time." Aurora's jaw tightened. "He's relentless," she murmured. "But so are we." Ethan straightened, determination hardening his spine. "Then we'll face him together. No matter what." Aurora's eyes softened, and for the first time, she allowed a small, genuine smile to appear. "Together," she agreed. The night was far from over, and the shadows still whispered threats. But in that hidden chamber, amidst glowing symbols and ancient power, a fragile bond had solidified. Sparks of trust, courage, and unspoken attraction ignited in the darkness, promising that whatever battles lay ahead, neither would face them alone. The dimly lit chamber beneath Aurora Enterprises had become their temporary sanctuary. The soft glow from the enchanted barrier painted their faces in a golden hue, highlighting the tension and exhaustion etched into their features. Outside, the city continued its indifferent hum, unaware of the high-stakes battle unfolding in the depths of one of its tallest buildings. Ethan leaned against the wall, still catching his breath from the mad dash through the hidden tunnel. Aurora stood nearby, studying a map of the building that projected from a small, holographic device. "Marcus Kane knows more than I anticipated," she said, her tone calm but urgent. "He's been tracking every move I've made for weeks. Tonight was only the beginning." Ethan shook his head, frustration creeping into his voice. And yet somehow, you're still standing here, bossing me around like nothing happened." Aurora glanced at him, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "You think I'm bossing you around? No. I'm making sure you survive, Ethan. That's my job now. And perhaps, it's your lesson in humility." Ethan chuckled despite himself, tension easing for a brief moment. The way she carried herself, fearless, poised, commanding, was intoxicating. Not just beautiful, but utterly compelling. And there was a softness beneath that strength, a vulnerability she rarely showed. He couldn't help but be drawn closer, even as danger lurked around every corner. "I don't need lessons, Aurora," he said, voice low. I need to know what I'm protecting. Why you're worth risking everything for." Aurora's eyes softened. "You've already proven that, Ethan. You didn't hesitate last night. You didn't question my story when it made no sense. You acted. That's more than most could do." Their proximity sparked something neither could ignore. Ethan's heartbeat quickened as she stepped closer, her gaze steady and unflinching. "I trust you," she whispered, almost to herself, though her voice carried enough for him to hear. Ethan swallowed hard. "Aurora, A sudden alarm interrupted them, a silent notification from the building's security network. Marcus Kane's team was attempting to breach another access point, this one leading directly to the executive floors. The moment of intimacy shattered. Aurora's expression hardened. "We don't have time for this. We need to move now." Ethan nodded, forcing his racing heart to calm. "Lead the way." They navigated the labyrinthine corridors beneath the skyscraper, every step echoing in the empty spaces. The hidden passages were lined with artifacts and ancient symbols, faintly glowing with a magic Ethan couldn't comprehend. He had no idea what he was looking at, but he knew one thing: Aurora's world was bigger than he had ever imagined, and he was now a part of it. As they reached a reinforced chamber that served as a secondary safe haven, Aurora activated another barrier. The room shimmered with protective light, and for a moment, they allowed themselves a breath. Ethan glanced at her, feeling the pull he could no longer deny. "Aurora, back there, before the alarm. I wasn't scared of you." "I don't know, Aurora's gaze met his, warm and intense. "You don't have to say it, Ethan. I feel it too." For a heartbeat, the world outside ceased to exist. Two people, bound by danger and trust, found a fleeting moment of connection. Her hand brushed his as she reached for a device, and Ethan felt the electric charge of their contact. But the world wasn't done testing them. A loud crash echoed from the floors above, followed by Marcus Kane's chilling voice. "Aurora, I'll find you, and when I do, your little guard won't save you this time." Aurora's jaw tightened. "He's relentless," she murmured. "But so are we." Ethan straightened, determination hardening his spine. "Then we'll face him together. No matter what." Aurora's eyes softened, and for the first time, she allowed a small, genuine smile to appear. "Together," she agreed. The night was far from over, and the shadows still whispered threats. But in that hidden chamber, amidst glowing symbols and ancient power, a fragile bond had solidified. Sparks of trust, courage, and unspoken attraction ignited in the darkness, promising that whatever battles lay ahead, neither would face them alone. The skyscraper trembled under the weight of the final assault. Marcus Kane had mobilized every resource, every mercenary, every tool at his disposal, and now he stood on the top floor, eyes locked on Aurora Lee. But this time, she was not alone. Ethan stood beside her, flashlight in one hand and a steel rod in the other. His uniform was torn, his face smudged with grime, but his resolve was unwavering. "This ends tonight," he said, voice low but firm. Aurora's eyes glimmered with determination. "Together," she whispered, touching his arm briefly. That simple gesture spoke volumes, a bond forged in trust, courage, and nights of shared danger. Marcus entered the chamber, his smirk twisting into a snarl. "So, the little guard thinks he can protect me," he taunted. "And you think your powers and your secrets can stop me?" Aurora stepped forward, her presence commanding. "Marcus Kane, you are not just threatening me, you are threatening everything I protect. I will not allow it." Ethan positioned himself beside her. "And I'm not letting you face this alone." Marcus laughed, a dark, booming sound that reverberated through the chamber. Foolish. Together. You're outmatched. Outgunned. Outclassed. Then the battle erupted. Marcus's mercenaries stormed the room, but Ethan's quick thinking and Aurora's hidden powers created a deadly synergy. He used his environment, pipes, railings, and shadows, to disarm and incapacitate enemies, while Aurora unleashed bursts of energy that sent them sprawling. The chamber shimmered with the glow of her power, a brilliant golden aura that reflected off the walls. Through the chaos, Marcus lunged at Aurora, aiming to seize control. Ethan intercepted, tackling him to the floor. The two men struggled, and Ethan realized that brute strength alone wouldn't be enough. He had to use strategy, agility, and the unshakable courage that had carried him this far. Aurora, recovering from the brief distraction, summoned a wave of energy that surged through the chamber. Marcus Kane was thrown backward, crashing into a reinforced wall. He tried to rise, but Ethan and Aurora moved in unison, ensuring he could not continue his assault. Breathing heavily, Marcus glared at them, rage burning in his eyes. "You've won this time, but the world isn't done with me." Aurora's gaze was icy. "And neither are we done protecting it. You'll not touch what I care for. Not me, not this city, not my realm." Marcus realized he was defeated. With a final furious glance, he retreated, disappearing into the shadows. The alarms slowly ceased, the building returning to silence. Ethan and Aurora stood together, leaning against each other as adrenaline ebbed and exhaustion settled in. For the first time, the danger was over, and the weight of their journey pressed down, not as a burden, but as a shared triumph. Aurora turned to Ethan, a rare vulnerability in her eyes. "You stayed. You risked everything for me. Why?" Ethan smiled, brushing snow from his coat. "Because you mattered. Not your title, not your secrets. You. And because after tonight, I can't imagine standing anywhere else but here, with you." Aurora's lips curved into a genuine smile, relief and affection mingling. "Then I guess, we're not just allies. We're something more." Ethan took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Something more," he agreed. Outside, the first light of dawn painted the city in soft gold, the storm finally behind them. But inside the skyscraper, a new world had begun, one where courage, trust, and love had overcome the shadows. Aurora looked at Ethan, her secret still vast and mysterious, but now shared with someone who had proven himself worthy. "Ethan, I suppose this is just the beginning." He grinned, eyes shining with determination. "Then let's face it together. Whatever comes next, we'll handle it, side by side." And for the first time, amid the remnants of the battle, they allowed themselves to imagine a future, one where danger still existed, but so did love, trust, and the unbreakable bond between a night guard and the heiress of the Dragon Realm. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Until we meet again in the next story, take care and keep the magic of imagination alive.